I'm Jenny-Jaymes and my sidekick, Christian Cano, partner in crime, is coming up next.
Hey everyone, I'm Jen's sidekick. Welcome to Two Queers in a Truck. Hi y'all.
See you soon. Good morning, everybody. It is Two Queers in a Truck, if I can get that out. First day with the new
It's
mouth.
one of the shows.
I'm getting it for an early Christmas present, a new mouth, so I'm still learning how to use it. Anyway, it's Christian and Jenny time, and we are in post-election America. We made it through. We began this year after we took our normal holiday hiatus, where we take a little bit of a break to go through the crazy season. We make sure that we work on our crazy, and then we come back with more crazy. So I don't know how that all works, but we'll figure out the math later. It's no big deal.
That's right.
I was told there would be no math in this class. And anyway, but it is Two Queers in a Truck time, and as always. We're recording a little different because we did a little bit of a live shows last week, and we did a little bit of an update show coming. We're actually recording the same week that we're going to show this. So if you're seeing this for the first time, it's the 13th of November, but we're recording it on Veterans Day. So all you veterans out there, we salute you, including my dad. And including my maternal grandfather that served in World War II. And I know you have veterans in your family as well, Christian.
Yeah.
And salute them too, and appreciate everything, especially for the people that gave all. Anyway, wow, it's one of those things. Veterans Day always hits me funny anyway, because of my dad. But I think it's important to note the sacrifices that the families make, the power, and maybe we need to learn how to take care of our veterans a little bit better. Veteran suicide rate's the second highest among all demographics behind the transgender community, which is me. But I really want to take just a second, since it is Veterans Day and we don't always get to record on Veterans Day, is to point out, if you do have mental health problems or you're going through anything, whether it's PTSD, whether it's just struggling with depression or the holiday season or whatever, there is a number that you can call. It's 988, and you can also Google it, and you can go online. They have an online chat deal, and they have people you can talk to. The government set this up a few years ago, and it's wonderful. It's free. It's something that if you are hitting that low, and I'm a big fan of therapy. I'm a big fan of mental health. I talk about mental health a lot. I sometimes talk about my own mental health. And on this journey of sobriety, one of the most important things is taking care of ourselves, both physically and mentally, and they kind of go hand in hand. And in this holiday season, sometimes we put our mental health to the side, when this is probably the time that we really should take care of ourselves mentally. Learn how to relax, learn how to do some things that are fun, do some things that are enjoyable, no matter what's going on. I mean, I think it's a life lesson that elections are going to come and go. But we also got to remember we've got to enjoy this life, and we've got to enjoy these moments. And I got reminded that this weekend I hung out with a wonderful young lady 2 nights in a row, and she just was amazing. And it reminded me of, because she has some struggles and I have some struggles, and but we had a really good time. And one of the things that struck me is it also gave me a chance to see myself through her. And one of the things I noticed was sometimes she does some of the things I do, which is try to inoculate problems before they occur, and try to live life in the future when I'm not living life in the present. And it gave me a chance to reflect on how grounded I really am and really take stock. Also, on Mondays, typically is my therapy day. So, woo. But I think we don't talk about this enough. And I think whether it's the era of Biden, whether it's the era of Trump, no matter what it is, I think we would always, it would behoove us if our society in general talked about this more, because a lot of families, and especially a lot of Texas families, which Christian and I are both from Texas originally,
Yeah.
and a lot of Texas families, I don't know about your family, but I know my family never talked about mental health. They did not want to talk about mental health.
That's right.
And it did us no favors as Gen
Yeah.
Xers. And we had to figure it out as an adult. Sometimes we do pretty good, sometimes we don't. And a little column A, a little column B, because that's just how life works. But I wanted to take the time to not only salute veterans, but also, if you have a veteran that's a loved one, reach out to them and say thank you today, or this week, because it's really Veterans Week. There's many places around the country that have Veterans Week celebrations, and there's all kinds of things that go on at the VA. There's a lot of LGBT veterans groups around the country. So if you are in that community as well, this is a queer-based show. So we also salute our LGBT veterans that have the double struggle of living their truth and also being a veteran. And I know
having to live through the Don't Ask, Don't Tell, all that stuff.
ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, many of us did. And there's so many that even before the Don't Ask, Don't Tell era,
Exactly.
where if somebody or a CO got mad at you, they could use your gender identity or sexuality against you. And it was very, very, just like with everything else, there was a lot of, well, this is what I want to do, and just like many times in society, our LGBT status is used against us unfairly and for absolutely no reason. So salute to you guys. Appreciate what you do. I appreciate the armed services and what they're doing today around the world for us, and including here in America. And y'all keep the faith. It's gonna be okay. But we'll go into another subject. Wacky story over the weekend. Trump's throwing out some of the people he may have in his cabinet, and one of them is the Moms for Liberty. I believe it's the Moms for Liberty founder is actually being discussed as the education secretary.
No way. Oh my
And
gosh.
same one that had the lesbian scandal, same one that had the husband that is
Oh
accused of
my.
rape.
Yeah.
The people that are against groomers and public education is going to head up the foremost
Public
position
education.
for public education, because that makes total sense.
Yeah.
And so with really what the second administration is going to be is everybody that enabled or contributed in some way and form in the last 4 years of Trump's fuckery as he lost the presidency because of his incompetence, and then campaigned for the next 4 years and lied about the last election and got rewarded by getting the job again, and maybe suppressed the vote a little bit. And it's pretty amazing that why any Republican, and we saw this in North Carolina with the nut job. Luckily, she lost, but we had this happen with our. We just had an election for one of the positions was the head of the education, and luckily, the Democrat won. The sane person won.
Mo Green. Yep.
Yeah, and because the other lady was a January 6th writer, she was a nut job. homeschools her kids, but is applying for the top state position for public schools, even though she does not believe in public schools personally for her own kids. I mean, it would be like owning a steakhouse and not wanting to serve steak.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's probably one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. Is like, you guys don't believe in public education. You don't want public education for many reasons. One, because you can't do what you want. There's oversight, and there's school boards, and there's elected officials that say, oh, no, you can't do that. You can't make it your personal kingdom, and this is why they want to privatize it. The second, and this is the most important thing, just like with the first Trump presidency and the second Trump presidency and the 4 years of him campaigning in between, everything with Trump is a scam. If he's interested in it or talks about it, rest assured with the MAGA crowd and Republicans in general, it's a scam. It's a scam. It's a money-making scam. And whether it's...
Jenny, if people don't understand what the word scam means, it also means it's a hustle, it's a grift, it's a,
Yeah, it's
hey,
a
do you want to buy these watches? It's that.
Yeah, I got these genuine Romex watches, made in not Switzerland but Taiwan. Which at this point, because we've had 9 years of Trump, he started running for president in 2015, and won in 2016, lost in 2020, now won again in 2024, allegedly. And it's just one scam after another. I mean, and if you go through the list of every scam and grift that this man's done just since he started the presidency run era of his life, when he went from his little game show and his reality show to being a presidential candidate, it has been one grift after another. He is no different than the street hustler. Like you said, you're a perfect example. The guy with the trench coat with 20 little watches behind there. No, they're real, as the gold is washing off. Leaves little green marks on your wrist when you wear it for one day.
Exactly.
and you go, oh my gosh, I'm going to get a $10,000 watch for $100. What a bargain. What a country we live in. What a country, as the great Yakov used to say. What a country. And it's just kind of wild. It's one part humorous, one part cringy. It would be more humorous if it wasn't, the stakes weren't so high. But you still got to kind of have to laugh a little bit. I mean, there goes the education department. Like, they don't have to close it. They just have to put something like this in charge.
Yeah.
And it's going to be pretty ineffective for the next 4 years. We can forget student loan forgiveness. I'm sure this chick does not believe in that. Plus, probably is invested in the student loans getting paid back. Like Betsy DeVos, rules like conflict of interest. She owns some of the companies that made the student loans, and then as the education secretary. Of course, they don't want loan forgiveness. They want to get paid. They want all that interest. They want to, like all of these student loans, and we'll come back with the next segment, but I want to talk about student loans for a second. But we're up against our first commercial break, and we'll be right back with some more Two Queers in a Truck. Hey everybody, you can catch us on your favorite audio podcast platform, Spotify, and all Apple Store, the Google machine, and whoever else does podcasts. We're on there. We broke in and we're staying. So enjoy the Two Queers in a Truck on your favorite audio podcast platform. Thanks for listening or watching. Bye. And we are back. And speaking of scams and grifts, student loans are the ultimate scam. On the, conservatives talk about groomers all the time. And we groom young people to say, you need to go to college, you need to go to college to be successful. But so many come from families, even more so nowadays than it used to be, because they've made college so expensive for some reason. For some reason, public colleges have a cost, even though the state budget pays for the college, but they still have a tuition, which I never figured that out. How we spend billions of dollars on college campuses and call it fully fun colleges, but they still have tuition. It's like we pay for college twice, maybe even 3 times. And I think that's very bizarre. That's number one. That's the number one scam, is how much public education has gone up disproportionately. But two, this whole student loan scam thing is, to me, mind-boggling. Is we tell kids, you got to go to college, you got to go to college, you go to college, which is not true. You don't need to go to college. You don't have to go to college. It's an option, but it's definitely not the only pathway to success. I know a lot of people who have a degree in something that they absolutely don't do for a living. How many people out there have teaching certificates and haven't taught in a classroom in 20 fucking years?
Yeah.
I know in Texas, for example, there's over 400,000 certified teachers living in Texas that do not work in public education or education at all. They're in different careers. I can't tell you how many people in business I know have told me, I've got a degree in education and I'm a certified teacher, but I'd rather be in business because I make not only 3 times as much money, I don't have to deal with parents. Crazy parents. Like, the kids aren't bad, but the parents suck. Oh, which is kind of true, because you end up with about 4 or 5 MAGA moms in there and you go, oh, but these student loans typically set for 20 or 30 years, like a mortgage, and they're almost all interest. You don't even pay them down. I personally know, I don't have any student loans myself, but I personally know at least 10 people that have student loans, some of them up to 15, 18 years old student loans, that have just now started to pay some principal, which is crazy, which is just mind-boggling, that these student loans are basically like loans from a loan shark, but for like $60,000, $80,000, $100,000 or more. I know somebody personally that has $250,000 worth of student loans.
Hey, Jenny, can I add something real quickly?
Yeah, go for it.
I actually had a conversation about this exact topic yesterday, watching a football game, about how, well, thank goodness now they're not going to forgive these student loans for people. And I tried to explain, as usual, it's hard to explain facts and data to MAGA people. That's just not how their mind operates. The student loan is not the same as a person's loan. And the reason it's not the same is because it can't ever be forgiven. You and I could go to the bank and get a loan to start a business or buy a house or credit or do whatever, and we can file bankruptcy and it would be forgiven. So we can get out of it if it's not, if something, gosh forbid, happens to us, okay? Student loans are one of the only loans that can never be forgiven in a bankruptcy, and so they last forever. And so, if anything, and this is what I explain to people, I understand about people's concerns about, well, I pay my loans, I didn't get a loan. Okay, you know what? Then let's do this. Let's just treat all loans the same. So that way, if you have a student loan, and if you do come in hard times or whatever, the bankruptcy courts can make a decision whether they want to forgive it or reduce it or whatever. And that's the big difference, is people who have student loans, it is not the same as a regular loan. It can never be forgiven. And if we allowed it to be forgiven, then people who can pay should pay. People who come into hard times and just can't afford it, like in a bankruptcy, people do that, then the judge can say, all right, we're going to forgive this loan. And that's, I think, the difference that people, it's hard to explain to people that, because they think, well, I don't want, they're like, oh, well, what happened was, and so, like Donald Trump has had 4 bankruptcies?
6.
Yeah, 6 bankruptcies. So just treat them like you would Donald Trump.
Yeah. That is a really good point, because There's so many of these same people. These are the same people that got PPP loans. We've got people,
Exactly.
Republican Congress people, Matt
Exactly.
Gaetz.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what kind of monkey business he has, but supposedly he had a corporation that got like $400,000 in PPP loans while in
Crazy.
office.
Yeah.
Very suspicious.
Mhm.
MTG supposedly, her construction company that she
Yeah.
closed, also got a magical, I think she got one or two PPP loans.
Yeah.
All these people that basically got loans with the understanding that right away it was going to get forgiven. It
Mhm.
was up front that it was
Yeah.
going to get forgiven.
Yeah.
And why is that any different than any other loan that can be forgiven, be charged off in a bankruptcy or anything else? Why
Yeah.
is student loans? Why are we holding the people, young people? If we want to improve our economy, if we're really worried about the economy, one of the best ways to do it is get people out of ridiculous debt. And one of the most
Yeah.
ridiculous, harmful, stupidest debts I've ever heard of is student loans.
Mhm.
I think whoever invented student loans should be horsewhipped in the public square because I think it's one of the most toxic things that's been done to predominantly millennials and Gen Z.
Yeah.
Our generation really didn't have student loans.
Yeah. Not as much as, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and if it was really small amounts.
Yeah, because education, college was a lot cheaper. You
Yeah,
know, I mean,
yeah,
when I went to college, going to University of Texas was $4 an hour. Now it's
yeah,
like 200. I don't know how much it is an
yeah.
hour or whatever. But imagine
But
$4 an hour. You could take a whole semester for like $100. You know,
yeah,
It's-
yeah. Texas Tech for just tuition in the late '80s and early '90s, which is not that long ago, it was about $250 all in.
that's incredible.
That same course load,
Yeah,
a full time course load, is about $5,000, six thousand
that's
dollars,
crazy.
just not counting books, not counting room and
Mhm.
board,
Yeah, that's what. Yeah,
just tuition.
yeah,
And you can't tell me that education's going up that much because the whole time Texas has been paying for all those public universities and junior
yeah,
colleges and all that, just
yeah.
like they do with the K through 12 education system, the primary schools and high schools and stuff. It would be like charging tuition for a public high school
Exactly. Yeah,
or a
yeah.
public kindergarten. Oh, all of a sudden,
Hmm.
well, you're gonna now have to get student loans for kindergarten. Let's ask a whole bunch of middle class and lower income families to come up with little Johnny's first grade tuition
Hmm.
deal to a public school. That is just as dumb as
Maybe
a
we should
public
pass for.
university.
Maybe we should push for vouchers for vouchers for people for college for the first two
Yeah,
years. Hey,
why not?
isn't
Well,
that school choice?
yeah, it's school choice, and
Uh-huh.
and we do have Pell Grants,
Yeah,
but I think
yeah,
the Pell Grants need to be higher because obviously they're not
yeah,
covering the tuition.
exactly.
And I don't understand why we have public universities that cost so much, and when state money and federal money goes to a lot of private universities too, with research grants and Pell grants and everything else. There is so much funding of private universities as well, and I don't understand why that tuition is still so high. And it's probably just because they
Hmm.
can charge it,
Yeah,
because we
yeah.
find it morally acceptable
Hmm.
to take young people, especially because most people going to college, especially for a bachelor's degree or an associate's degree, typically are under 25 years old. Um, and so we want them to get the education. We want them to be more educated, supposedly, allegedly. But we also set up a system that's not very free market or smart.
Yeah,
Like
good
if we
point.
really
Yeah.
want free markets and we want a good
Hmm.
capitalistic system, when we invest as much as we humanly can into those
Hmm.
people, and the young people of our country is our future. It's an investment. It's as important as making sure we have enough silicone chips for the computer industry and the auto industry and everything else that uses a silicone chip, which is pretty much everything now. TVs, our little handheld computers called smartphones. Almost everything we use that uses the Google machine or the interwebs uses a computer chip, processing chip of some type. We found that to be a worthy cause. We find that war making is a worthy cause, but for some odd reason, public education, especially college, seems to be a really stupid idea, which at the same time we have all the VA and ROTC scholarships too. Very weird. And it kind of brings me on another topic of medical care and how we don't prioritize health, which is what I talked about at the start of the show about veterans and health in general and mental health awareness. It's like we don't prioritize really the things we should in this country, which is healthcare, mental, physical health, education. But my gosh, we have enough money for bombers. We have enough money for Trump's planes to fly to Mar-a-Lago to a sleazy golf resort so he can play golf for the next 4 years like he did the last 4 years. We have enough money to cover his Secret Service, and so that his Secret Service stays at his resort and he charges
hotels
full price.
Yeah. More than full price.
Him. Yeah,
that's crazy.
He ratchets that up. Speaking of grifts and scams, which I think is just wild. That people go, oh, well, he does it. He donates his salary. And I'm going,
no, he doesn't.
Should.
Yeah.
He should. Like he's making money. He's not doing that. He's not. Not only are we paying for the Secret Service, but we're also paying for their hotel stays because they've got to be on the grounds of where he's doing. So they put him up in the hotels. And so protecting a president costs money, but we are up against our second break. So I'm going to take the second break and then we'll continue this right after this. Hey, thanks for watching Two Queers in a Truck. And Christian and I just blathering on about craziness in the world today. Y'all be safe out there. There is a lot of Republicans on the road.
That's right.
Have a good week out there.
Bye.
Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for watching us on Two Queers in a Truck. Don't forget, you can watch us anytime at your leisure on our video podcast platforms like Facebook and YouTube. But you can also listen to us, either this show or any of our past shows, on our audio podcast platforms like Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and all of the other ones. So once again, thank you for watching Two Queers in a Truck. I hope you enjoy our show.
And we are back. What's wild is of all the scams, of all the crazy grifts, to me, one of the most amazing ones is the fact we never talk about his golf grift that he did for 4 years the last time he was president. And I think it was $150 million we spent on his golf trips.
You know what, Jenny? I was thinking about that. Sorry to interrupt you. I was thinking about that because we talked about on the other show right after the day after the election. One of the things, and I know everyone's kind of being Monday morning quarterback, we should have done this. Sure. One of the things that I said, it feels like, is Vice President Harris and just people in general, we didn't do enough attack ads on Trump like we could have. When I went to DC, they were running ads that had like doctors, like psychiatrists, and there were like 6 psychiatrists on there, and they were saying the symptoms of a narcissist, and they were saying, yes, Donald Trump fits this. It was a really, really good, and it was running in the DC market. They didn't run that here, and they should have run ads like that, just reminding people. Reminding bros, the bro vote, the young bro vote. They should have been reminding the young bro votes how sissy Elon Musk is, how sissy Josh, Matt Gaetz is. We've got to start attacking them like they attack us, And
you remember when Jeff Jackson ran for Congress, one of his best ads was showing his opponent
The jet ski.
riding around on a lake in a jet ski in a suit.
That's right. It was great. Yeah, it was great.
Dancing on the public's dime. And it's that he's a rich man. He doesn't need the money. He doesn't need this job. He's not going to serve you. And they should have shown different clips, including the one where he's got the big poop stain on the backside of himself playing golf.
Yeah, exactly.
And just show the rolling total year by year.
Yes.
From 20 of those 4 years in office of what his golf outings actually cost.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because it's public record.
Mm-hmm.
And then they need to do another commercial about the drug dispensary scandal during the 4 years he was in the White House too. And Dr. Rodney Jackson, like narcotic use went up 3 times normal for the White House.
And they should have run pictures of MTG and Laura Boebert, just like they do Nancy Pelosi. You know how they make Nancy Pelosi the devil and Hillary Clinton the devil. They should have just had, do you want this? This is who Donald Trump is. They should have had that squad, the Matt Gaetz and the one in the wheelchair from North Carolina. Exactly. Or like
MTG when she says addictable.
Yeah, exactly. Just run that commercial. Just run that commercial. Yeah.
Going, these are the clowns that'll be in charge if you vote him in.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's a lesson I think, we need to really think about between now and when we start campaigning for midterms, which is only 13 months away.
That's right.
Registration for midterms is in December 2025. Be here before we know it. And these are conversations we should be having all the time. And because Republicans do, we should. And I've been saying this for a while. We've talked about it on the show ad nauseum, but I think Democrats are, like the DC Democrats are waking up. I think certain states like California has done a really good job because you've seen what Governor Newsom has done. He's had great success.
Yeah.
And I think eventually hopefully all the other states that have Democrat parties, which is every one of them, because we know we can win. Last week, one of the great stories that really didn't get a lot of play was the fact that 20 different transgender candidates won some type of office, including Sarah McBride from Delaware, Biden's home state, was the first out of the closet transgender woman to be elected to the National Congress. She won a House of Representatives seat, and she had won a state senator seat before that, and now she is a representative elect, and she will, when she gets sworn in January, will be the very first transgender person to be elected to Congress.
Wow.
And which is really cool because I actually know her in real time. She came down for the 2017 hearings on the Texas version of the bathroom bill, and I got to have a short conversation with her, and she's a wonderful young lady, really, really smart, super articulate. She's going to do great in Congress. She's done great in Delaware as a state senator. Many transgender candidates won re-election last week as well. One in Virginia, I think one in Montana, of all places. But there is some good news. It wasn't all bad news last week. We had, I'm not going to rehash the North Carolina because we already talked about it last week. And to me, it's old news. We just had the test. We need to learn the lesson from last week's test, which I see as nothing more than a test. I think life is a test. It's something that you even said this off air, or I said this off air, because we're gearing up for next year. We're in that part of the year. We've gotten past the election. We've talked about it all year, but let's just get past the election. Now we're past the election. We're in the holiday season, and we're thinking about the new year. And I made the comment: if you're going to eat an elephant, you still only have to eat it one bite at a time. Like you can't swallow the whole thing at once. It's impossible. And which is kind of a graphic example, but there is some truth to that. Like when you're doing a monumental task, sometimes you have to just kind of slow down, breathe a little bit, and go, hey, let life come to us. And speaking of life coming to us, I saw a great post. It's a great meme, and it's called "Tariffs for Dummies." And it kind of goes like this: if an American company imports T-shirts from China for $20 currently, and then turns around and retails that to Americans for $40. If Trump turns around and puts a 50% tariff, and this is going to be the math part of this class, that American store now pays $30 for that shirt.
Mm-hmm.
They can't keep the same amount of profit. They now will sell that shirt for $50.
Mm-hmm.
That's how tariffs work.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, at the end of the day, the company's going to mark it up accordingly.
Mm-hmm.
You, as a consumer, are going to pay more for that T-shirt.
Exactly.
And,
Yeah.
and that's with anything. It's whether it's cars,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's soybeans, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's whatever it is, tomatoes from
Mm-hmm.
Mexico, whatever it is. If there's a tariff attached to it, and the tariff goes up, just
Mm-hmm.
like if sales tax, local sales tax goes up
Yeah.
from 5% to 10%.
Yeah.
And you go and buy a shirt in a store, in a local
Mm-hmm.
store, you're going to pay 5% more because that store has to collect that tax. Otherwise, it's tax fraud.
Yeah.
There ain't no way around that. State,
Mm-hmm.
the Department of Revenue for that state's going to say, no, you got to pay the 10%. And the store's not going to eat that 5% for you.
Yeah.
Unless they have a tax holiday, like if there's a tax
Mm-hmm.
holiday statewide, which sometimes some states have those, and then for a weekend, usually right before back to school, they'll have a tax-free weekend. But that's how much sales tax adds to a price. When for the longest, including George W. Bush, started the tax-free weekend thing in Texas because
Mm-hmm.
sales taxes are so high in Texas.
Yep.
If they weren't that high, if tariffs didn't affect our life that much, which a
Mm-hmm.
tariff is just a sales tax. It's just
Yeah.
another, but instead of
Mm-hmm.
charging it on the retail end, they charge it on the wholesale end, but it still marks up
Mm-hmm.
the product.
Exactly.
It changes the price. It
Mm-hmm.
changes what the company that's importing it pays for it.
Yeah.
And then, as with anything, the company passes
Mm-hmm.
the cost on. If hamburger meat
Mm-hmm.
goes up, McDonald's is going to charge more for a Big Mac.
Yeah.
If potatoes, we have a potato famine, and potatoes are harder to get, cost of potatoes go up. They charge more for their French fries.
Mm-hmm. You know what, Jenny? But apparently the MAGA supporters, the diehard supporters, in their little pea brain, they they see it as they're sticking it to someone. That's all they care about. They don't even care. And that's why sometimes I use the term delusional, and had a conversation with someone yesterday as well, but I shouldn't be using that term. It is delusional
It
when
is.
80 to 90% of what is sold at Hobby Lobby is made in China, and you've elected someone who's going to raise the prices of the place that you go shopping. That is delusional.
Yes.
Because what you're saying is, I want to bring prices down, so I'm going to elect him so he can do tariffs. You're basically, that is the definition of delusional. If
It's
you don't
actually the
think,
definition of insanity.
exactly, yeah. And
It's
so,
like, I'm mad about the cost of
mm-hmm.
eggs. So I'm going to vote for somebody who's going to make the cost of everything go up.
Exactly.
Because he's going to stick it to that. He's going to stick it to somebody, but ultimately he's going to end up sticking it to me. It's like, I don't want to get got, but MAGA people like Trump and so many other liars from that deal have done such a good job of bullshitting people in their cult that they switch their brains off and they go, well, if something costs more, who's going to pay for that? Because either the company that imports the stuff has to eat the cost.
Yeah.
Because if it costs more, it costs more. Well, no matter what makes the cost go up, whether it's a supply chain shortage, whatever, And these people have bitched since 2021, supposedly about inflation and higher prices, even though companies had record profits during that same period. But hey, we won't talk about that part either. But the delusion is real. The definition of insanity is voting for a jackass that's going to tell you, I'm going to raise prices on you. I'm going to raise prices on China.
And Mexico. I don't know how to pronounce Mexico.
And also too, one thing that people don't think about, one of the reasons our trade with Mexico is going higher, because China sends the goods through Mexico.
Yeah.
And then Mexican truck drivers drive it across our border.
Yeah.
Because, we're stupid.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they'll probably raise taxes and tariffs on Mexican imports as well to try to stick it to them. And they will stick it to them all the way to the bank, because sales won't go down, but our prices will go up again for the same crowd that's mad that their cold beer and their eggs are more expensive. So that's all we have. That is the end of the show. And we will wrap it up, and we'll see you next week. Bye, Boo.
Bye, Boo. Yeah.
Hey, y'all, thanks for watching. And we are into the holiday season, or the home stretch. We made it through election season. And no matter how you vote, we are at that end of the year time. Thanks for hanging in with us all these 11 months. And we're going to bring you some more fun holiday shows. We're going to laugh about some things and maybe talk about a few serious things. But thanks for hanging in there. We'll see you next week. We always appreciate you guys. Bye, Boo.
Bye, Boo.